we go.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Oh, we are live already. Hello, everyone out there, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of In Bed with Comics, Voting Day. And what a chore it was. I don't know if you can see my little tag there. It says, I voted. It was quite the chore to go voting today because I didn't realize that 4 years ago I was living in Levittown, and that's where I was actually registered to vote. And then I thought when I moved to Huntington and I got, I changed my license, I hit register to vote, and for some reason it didn't work. So I got to my old voting place, and yes, I did wear this Comedians Laughs Count shirt to vote, and everyone was asking me about it. But shout out to Doris over at South Huntington Library. She swooped in there and handled it, and I was actually able to cast my vote today, so I feel like a proud American, even though I had posted that I said I wasn't going to vote. But I ultimately ended up changing my mind because it's not just about me. So I just decided, you know what, let me just go out there and voice my opinion and, all of that. And so let's just hope for the best, and may the best man and woman win. So speaking of South Huntington Library, on November 7th, they are going to be having a veterans drive there. So if you have any clothing that you'd like to donate, or if you would like to just go to the store and buy some toothpaste, toilet paper, sanitary wipes, hand sanitizer, toothpaste, gel, body wash, nail files, all kinds of stuff, our veterans could really use our help. That's at the South Huntington Library over, I think it's 145. Yeah, 145 Pigeon Hill Road in Huntington. So please go out and let's support our vets, because Veterans Day is coming up, and just because you don't see it doesn't mean that those people are not in need. These are soldiers that fought for our country, and they do need our support. So please, if you have any goods or anything like that you would like to donate to these wonderful men and women who served our country, go down to the South Huntington Library. I think it starts at 2 o'clock. I will definitely double check and post on my Facebook page for sure if anyone living in Suffolk County or Nassau County just wants to take a trip. I'll be around all weekend if you want to stop by and say hi and go get a drink, whatever. I went to my first open mic in so long the other day. I don't want to give the location because I don't want to, but everyone that's a comic knows Monday nights was pretty fun. I got to see a lot of great comics and listen to some really funny jokes. It was just really, really nice to be around everybody. And just to shout out, my boy Keith Fitz is actually having a comedy show this Friday. You can message me or him for the location, or look for it on my Facebook page when I share his post. He's going to be having a comedy show at a private house. And from what I understand, there's some pretty good comics. And that's not to mention, I know you've been seeing me post this. I am going to be having a comedy show at a disclosed? No, not disclosed. That means that you're revealing it. A secret location in Brooklyn on Friday the 13th at 8 o'clock. I have some really awesome comics on that show. Please hit me up for tickets. I really would love to have some people come down in Brooklyn. So if you live in Brooklyn, or if you'd like to come, I'm driving out there if you'd like to catch a ride with me. Or I also have virtual seats available. You can purchase those tickets through Eventbrite, or just hit me up and you'll save yourself the convenience fee from Eventbrite. But let's get to the purpose of the show. I'm your host and fellow comic, Kristen Tinsley, as we didn't know. So once upon a time, there was a comic. He performed at McGuire's Comedy Club in Bohemia. He performed at the Lizard Lounge, Shaker's Pub, One-Eye Jack's, Digger's Pub, and Coaster's Tavern in East Meadow. Please, everyone, welcome Johnny Lambrose. Is that how you say your last name?
It's Lambrose. Thank you very much for having me, Kristen.
You're welcome, man. You were one of the first people that had asked me to come on this show. And then I just got hit with an overwhelming response of people that wanted to come on the show. So you kind of got pushed to the back, and I do apologize for that. But I'm glad you're here tonight with me. So welcome to In Bed with Comics. Hi, Robin. Robin's watching. And this is
Hi, Robin.
If you hadn't seen him. So how long have you been doing comedy for?
For a little over a year. Started in March 2019 at McGuire's over in Bohemia by the airport. MacArthur Airport, I think. Yeah.
And what was your okay, so which would you rather do? Go through your first experience on stage as a comic or ask a girl out? Or guy. I don't want to be like,
Well, I am straight, so in case you were wondering, I mean, I don't know what about me would say otherwise. Um, would I rather go on stage as a comic, as my first experience as a comic, or ask a girl out?
Yeah.
I'd much rather go through my first experience as a comic. I am very socially awkward. I have Asperger's syndrome, so that's why. Uh, yeah, I'm not exactly the ladies' man type, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm not the type to be, you know, using pickup lines or doing anything cheesy like that. I'm quite the opposite. So yeah, I take the stage over that payday.
I have a very good friend of mine that has Asperger's, and she always says that she's socially awkward, and I always drag her out to comedy shows and like try to like find ways to like encourage her to, get out there and live her life. And she did. She ended up taking, some classes in the medical field, and she was actually able to go on a date with somebody. So, there definitely is. There are ways around being. I am socially awkward too. I am not a social butterfly. I mean, I am, but I'm more of an introvert. I would much rather stay home and just be like a homebody. Like, I'm not, somebody that likes to go out and party all the time. Although that's changing. As I'm getting older, I found that, that's definitely changing. I do enjoy going out. I just pick up on people's energy very differently.
Right. I'm in the same boat there. I'm normally an introvert at first, unless I really get to know you. If I don't know you, I'm not saying anything. I mean, I speak when I'm spoken to, but I'm not gonna be the type to go, hey, and just start talking right there.
Well, one of the things that I had to actually learn, about when I got into comedy, I knew that I was going to have to be on stage in front of people, but I never, when I was doing open mics before I started doing shows, I never really thought about, oh, you're going to have to get on stage in front of people. You're going to have to actually talk in front of people. And I wasn't too shy about that. I was actually very excited about that because It was like, all right, when I'm on stage, it's just me. So, and, I kind of had to, not really get over it, but I really just had to accept it, that I was going to be like exposed up there. And I probably also like low key didn't think that it would ever happen because I didn't realize how kind of easy it was to be able to get on your first show and be able to, to be a stand-up comic. So what made you decide that you wanted to try stand-up comedy despite having Asperger's?
Well, I've always loved it. I've always, I can remember, it was probably 2003, 2004. I was very young. Last Comic Standing was on TV, and that was my first actual experience seeing comedy, like at all, And then later on, I became a huge fan, still to this day, of the Blue Collar Boys, Larry the Cable Guy, Jeff Foxworthy, Bill Engvall, Ron White. And I've always loved it, and I've always, thought about doing it, but I would always second guess myself because I know how difficult it is, and I could tell from the start, to be able to, come up with enough material to construct a set and go out in front of complete strangers and try it and take the gamble on whether or not this joke will work. And it was definitely a lot for me to take in. When I started comedy, it wasn't my introduction to the entertainment industry, so to say. I was a pro wrestler for about 4 years prior to that.
Do you know Big O?
Yeah, I do know Big O. Yeah,
he's a good friend of me and my sister. Yeah, he is something. Oh, I went to go see him wrestle one time, and I love wrestling. Like, I love wrestling. I love like wrestling from the 80s. Like, I'm like a big like Hulk Hogan type of Andre the Giant fan. I love all of that. I love that. Oh my God. So tell me about your wrestling career.
Well, I guess I can because it kind of segues into what led to comedy. But I started training in October of 2011. I was junior, senior in high school at the time, and I didn't have my first match until a month after I graduated high school. So basically, I dove headfirst into the entertainment industry straight out of high school via wrestling.
Yeah.
Did that for about 4 years. Got sick of not what went on in the ring, but what went on behind the scenes. You know, the I'm sure you've heard stories from Mo about politics and how mentally grueling it could be. I mean, granted, all of entertainment has forms of politics and shadiness, but wrestling definitely would have to be on the top pedestal when it comes to it because imagine having problems with somebody to an extreme degree and then having to trust them with your physical safety in a box with ropes in front of strangers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at least in comedy, if you have a problem with somebody, you can avoid them. While wrestling, there could be a chance you may end up getting booked against said person, and it's too much to explain. So I left wrestling in December 2016, went into podcasting for a bit, took a little dive at that, I had no clue what I was doing at the time with the podcasting stuff. So some of the shows worked, some of them didn't. And I kind of missed the feeling of being able to perform live, and comedy just was always, like I said, from way back then to still to this day, an interest. And I thought to myself, I'm not getting any younger. Why not, give it a try, So I remember I called the governor's number to apply for, well, not apply, but to sign up for the open mic night at the Bohemia location because it's the closest one to my home. And it's funny, I remember telling my father about it. He goes, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to, try stand up." He goes, "You?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "All right." Then one day he pulls me aside and goes, "John, about this comedy stuff, what if you bomb?" I'm like, "That could happen." He goes, "What if you get booed off stage?" I'm like, "That could happen." He goes, "What if you just flat out don't do well?" I said, "That could happen." He goes, "I don't know about this kid." I'm like, "Trust me, I've been in front of crowds before. This is just something new, but something not so new, if you know what I mean." So I remember going into McGuire's that night pretty much with a more realistic expectation than most new comics at the time. I mean, I'm pretty sure 90% of the comedians out there today, when they started, they had like visions of grandeur that they're going to be the next big star, and everything. I went in pretty much thinking to myself that I'm going to let, the crowd reaction be the deciding factor as to how I approach this.
Right.
If they barely laughed at my stuff, or if they gave like a not really decent but okay response, that would have been the only time I did it, and I would have took it as like a bucket list thing and just okay, this is something I tried, I can move on.
Yeah, but that's
But
just
to my,
crowd, though.
I'm sorry.
But that's just one crowd, though. I meet a lot of people who say that they try comedy once, and sometimes they're doing it in front of an open mic crowd, which is vastly different from from an actual audience. Mm-hmm. And they're like, "Well, if I'm good at it, then I'll let the audience do this." But people are very different in their response to people's material.
Right.
You can do very well in front of one crowd and then do horrible in front of another, but that's not your fault.
Oh, of course not. But I was going to say, luckily for me, I wound up doing pretty good that night. And just the feeling I got from that kind of just sat well with me. And I thought, this is something I could do, and I still think to this day, I mean, if an opportunity comes my way, I'm not necessarily going to say no right off the bat. But at the same time, if I end up just working bar shows and clubs my whole career, then so be it. Like I'm just in it for fun, I'm just in it to have fun.
It's nice to actually meet someone that is in it for fun, because you never know where the ball's going to drop in your favor. You just never know what opportunity you might get, So I think that if you stay humble, those types of blessings will come to you a lot faster than as opposed to someone that's out there very eagerly trying to, you know, really, really, really make it because, for 1 second you can have an opportunity in the ball of your hand, and the next minute it's just off of the wind. So I love, okay, I do have a competitive side, very competitive. So I'm like, oh, I gotta, do this and, taking, producing shows and stuff like that and trying to, but I do it because I love it. I love entertainment. I came from the movie world and now I'm slowly going back in that direction because I feel like, okay, I've done comedy. I've done it, for 2 years. This year will be 3 years. And, I'm not going to sit there like, oh, you didn't make it, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just going to try different things. I'm going to use everything that I've learned to, to build off of something else and take what I've learned and put it into all my other ventures. So either way, entertainment is still a business and you just never really know what type, where you might fit or where that skill that you have for wrestling might actually come into play later on. I mean, that's freaking genius. I mean, if they had a wrestling, I mean, that is like, I've always envisioned in my head doing a roast battle in a wrestling ring with like wrestlers, you know what I mean? Like just
right.
That would be hysterical. If I could find a wrestling ring, I would definitely produce that show. Because that would just really make it like really like
I'll fill you in on a little secret though. A lot of the wrestlers, especially on the independents, can't really take jokes as well as comics can. So if
I would include them, but like some of them, obviously like we would do it like how they do it, like where they come out, like that big.
Also, you would do it in the style of a wrestling promo, but just against another comic.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Really make it like a big production. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I could find and get my hands on a wrestling ring, I will do that.
Well, when we're off the air, I'll give you a reference. Maybe you can help me out. Yeah.
Yeah, because and just to have like, I'll totally drag Adam into this or you, whoever, to be like an announcer. I mean, I think that I've always loved wrestling, and I feel like that's definitely something that's very hard to get into. I actually, when I met Stephanie McMahon when I was interning, I met her. She came down to talk to us about the business of the WWE. And I was just astounded by her. She was, she had quite a story, and she was such a real human being. And they were looking for writers for the WWE. And I was like, I still regret that to this day, not taking that opportunity, because I probably really would have loved it. But I think at this point now, I probably would have gotten a little sick and tired of it. Right. Because it all follows like a certain formula and everything. But that would have been quite the career, I think, working for them. I mean, I still might, because I know that they have, different films and stuff. What's your favorite wrestling movie?
My favorite wrestling movie? Yeah. I have to say The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, because it gives a real depiction on how it really is.
Yeah, Darren Aronofsky really I miss Darren, and he hasn't done movies in a while. I think, what was the last movie he did? I think it was Black Swan, which was another classic film.
I saw Black Swan too. Yeah.
Black Swan was, I don't think a lot of people got that movie, but it.
Well, I didn't get the movie either, but the scene with the girl and Mila Kunis in the bed.
Well, everybody loves that,
Of course. I remember it was so funny. Like, they made it look like it was a dream. I remember, not to give away the film for anybody who hasn't saw it, but I remember the scene where she goes to Mila like, well, I dreamt, and she kind of hinted at what the dream was, and Mila's like, oh my God, was I good?
Wow, yeah. No, I love that, but The Wrestler definitely did give a pretty good depiction of what it would be like. To me, it was more of like a fading star and a man that just had so many regrets in his life. Mm-hmm. And if you look at that, that's just not just for entertainment, it's for everything. you know, with acting. And, you know, one of the saddest scenes in that movie is when he goes walking in to sign autographs, and you just see all the other wrestlers around them, and they've gotten so old and so down, and just so like, and they were like people that, you know, were
Well, it's all unnecessary ego. You know, there's a lot of guys in wrestling who have too much ego to the point where they won't think smart. They'll think more, you know, what's going to make me look good, you know, and there are guys who are like, I've seen guys on the independents who are well into their 50s, hitting 60, that are still out there destroying their bodies for $20 because they don't know when to say time's up. You know, like one year you see, you know, I mean, not to sound like I'm taking shots because I'm not, but guys like Greg the Hammer Valentine, who was a big star, you know, in the 80s, you know, there was a time period where he was traveling the world, wrestling in big arenas with all the stars. And now you see him nowadays, he'll do VFW halls in front of 10 people and looking like he's always tired. And, you know, it's kind of sad to see, but
I kind of feel like somewhere along the lines, you know, we do have control over our own destiny, and we do have control over how our life is going to turn out in certain ways. So I don't know. I just kind of feel like somewhere along the lines he may have made some sort of mistake, where he, you know, he went left, or where he may have went right, you know, at a certain point in his career where he could have, you know, or maybe, you know, but anyway, the good thing about comedy is that it's kind of timeless. You know, you could be 50, 60 years old and start out in comedy and just find like a really good niche and just be able to take off from there. So where do you see yourself going in like 5 years?
Hopefully still doing the clubs, hopefully more higher up though, like, because I'm technically an open micer, you know, so hopefully by 5 years I'll have at least enough, you know, stuff to help earn me to a higher spot, you know, on shows,
Right.
you know, and become more like an established comic. That's where I, you know, see myself there. But at the same time, I also see myself more established in other aspects of my life. You know, I'm 27 years old. I'm a security guard by day. So, you know, hoping to take a civil service test to become a 911 operator. So I'm doing what I can.
For it, man.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I met this girl the other day when I went to go pick up a horse blanket for my sister, and she was talking about how she just her boyfriend was a cop, and he was like, I'm done with this right now, and he decided to become a 911 operator. And I was like, that has got to be probably one of the toughest jobs that I could think of. Yeah. Just having to listen.
But you see a lot of stuff, you know, in security as well, especially security at hospitals. I used to work at a hospital doing security, and there'd be plenty of times where they'd be rushing in, you know, accident victims, and you would see things that just would shock you, you know. So in my opinion, you know, and others could think differently, it's easier to hear about the stuff, you know, and you know, than to actually see it, you know, in person, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, others could have a different feeling about it.
Well, good luck. I know that you'll do good, and you know, 27 is such a beautiful age. You know, you have.
I don't feel beautiful at all, but.
No, it's a good time. It's a good time in your life. I'm about to be 40, so I'm kind of like,
no,
like an apple, my dear. I would kill to be 27 years old again.
You're about to be 40.
Yeah.
You do not look it at all.
Because I don't have children, that's why, and I'm not married.
Okay, that's it. That's it. Okay.
Yes. No offense to anyone out there that may be watching that's having that has children. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Keithers, what's up, you? I already shouted you out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I try to keep myself very stress free and all that stuff. Not to say I'm not open to having children or getting married, it just hasn't happened. So
Mm.
career is one big thing. It's very difficult
Yeah.
to date when you're a woman like me and you're out there producing comedy shows and you're out there and you're like, what do you mean you want me to stay home on a Friday night? I have a comedy show to do or something like that. Like, what do you mean you want to just like sit on the couch and watch TV? Like, I have a book to
Well,
write.
that's where you could bring your significant other to the club with you and have him be like your plus one, you
I
know.
pray to God that I actually meet someone that's my biggest fan because it is very hard to find a guy that is like okay with doing stand up. And some female comics have told me, don't tell them that you do stand up. And I'm like, how could I not tell them? How do I hide that?
It's like they're gonna find out eventually, you know.
Right. They're gonna find out eventually and they're gonna see, because a lot of guys are like, oh, if you do stand up, you must be around a lot of guys. And I'm like, yeah, I am around a lot of guys, but I'm also around a lot of women. It's not just guys that do stand up comedy. So some guys are intimidated by it, and some guys think that, oh, you're gonna get up on stage and you're gonna talk about our relationship, and I'm like,
Oh
no,
yeah.
I'm not. I'm not. So I mean, it's nothing more cliche than getting up and being like, oh, I hate my boyfriend. Like, why? No.
I remember when I started, this girl who I was with at the time, we're friends now, but when we were together as a couple when I started, and she just flat out said to me, she goes, "You're gonna talk about me at some point up there, are you?" I'm like, "Well, eventually." She goes, "I expected that. Go ahead."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, all right then."
Sometimes it's funny, like if it's something new and it's something relatable, but I don't want to get up there and be like, yeah, so my boyfriend left his smelly socks on my bedroom floor again.
Mm.
Man, like no, like it has to be
Mm.
something that's like really funny.
Mm.
Otherwise, it's just.
One thing I'm not comfortable with though, as a comic, is when your family is sitting front row right by the stage while you're up there, doing it. I don't mind them coming to the shows, but when they're right there, I have a story if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I was doing an open mic at McGuire's of all places, of course, and my aunts were there. They're like in their late 60s, early 70s, just to give you an idea of their age range. The oldest one, Susie, was the most excited about being there, and she goes, "Oh, I hope you do good, kid," blah blah blah, old Irish lady. So before every show, and I would do this when I was wrestling too, I would always, before the show start, go in the back of the room and survey the audience just to see how full it is, who's there, who isn't, just how the audience looks from the back room, basically. And that's when I see that my aunts were sitting not only right by the stage. I don't know if you ever performed at McGuire's or not, but they were sitting at this they were sitting at this table where the comics had to walk right by to get on and off the stage. So they were like really, really up front. So right away I'm like, oh God, because I remember about a week prior, Susie goes, "You can talk about me. I'm a tough broad. I can take it." I'm like, "You sure about that? Because, it's different when you're actually there." And she goes, "No, I'm sure." So when I saw them by the stage, I'm like, I guess I have no choice now. So I remember I go up on stage when it was my part of the show. And the first thing I said was, before I get started, my answer here, this is Joette, this is Nancy, this is Susie. And Susie, I just have to ask, honestly, why are you here? And she says out loud, she goes, "Because I love you and I want to see you do well." And you hear the whole audience go, "Aw," which is bad news for a comic, right? So I counter that with, "Well, I spoke to the home and you're going back."
My mom has my family used to come like a lot when I first started.
Right.
They would come to like all my shows and everything, which was really exciting. But now, you kind of find that the family's like, "Oh, you're doing another show." Like, oh, okay, like we'll come to the next one. It's like, no, like I want you to come to all the shows so you can actually see me progress as a comic. Like my family has no idea a lot of the stuff that I do. Like my sister's always like, "Oh, you're always busy," and I'm like, "Yeah, if you paid it, like if you followed me on Facebook and Instagram, you would know like what I'm doing."
And plus, at these clubs, people think like the seats in the way back are the worst. They're not, because you hear everything and you see everything. Like you're able to take in everything a whole lot more.
Definitely.
So yeah,
Did you have any favorite comedians growing up, or?
Oh yeah, well, obviously the blue collar boys, Jeff Foxworthy, Larry the Cable Guy, Bill Engvall, Ron White. I saw 3 out of 4 of them live. I saw Larry twice, and I saw Ron, and I saw Bill. Have yet to see Jeff. I doubt I ever will, because he's very private from what I hear. But yeah, I have tons of favorites. Andrew Dice Clay, Joey Coco Diaz, Jessica Kirsten, Tom Segura, Christina Pazitsky, Artie Lang.
You ever read his book Too Fat to Fish?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God! All right. Yeah, no. When I met him at Governor's, and the first thing that I said to him, I was like, "I loved your book Too Fat to Fish," and he went crazy. I think I left that book at my old apartment when I lived in Brooklyn with my ex-boyfriend, and I regret it to this day because I would have loved to have had it, and I would have loved to have had him sign it because I read that book like 12 times. I don't know why, but I just find Artie Lang to be one of the funniest people.
I met Artie in 2014 while he was doing the Artie Lang show on DirecTV with Mike Boschetti and all of them.
Yeah.
It was when his book Crash and Burn came out, and I had a copy of Too Fat to Fish, and I just bought Crash and Burn, so I had him sign both. But I remember, being so nervous meeting him that when we took the picture, and it's somewhere on my Facebook, I don't know where, but when we took the picture, I didn't smile. Not because I was pissed to be there or found him unpleasant, but I was afraid that if I smiled, I would look stupid. Because that like that starstruck smile, like, oh my God. And I remember as I'm taking the book and checking the picture on my phone, after the picture was taken, Artie's looking at me like, "This kid okay?" He's got that look like, something wrong with him,
Oh my God, yeah. Oh wow, yeah.
I met his fiance at the time too, who was a beautiful woman, Adrian. I don't know if you ever heard of her. Yeah. It's a shame that they're no longer a couple anymore, but
well, I mean, blame her.
Yeah, if you look up the story as to how they split, you'd be like, yeah, that's Artie.
I can just imagine for her. So if there were to be a movie made about your life, who would you pick to play you?
Who would I pick to play me? Wow, that's a really good question. Probably Billy Gardell or Billy Gardell. I mean, someone asked me this question years ago, and I mentioned the name of a famous mob actor. It wasn't Pesci; it was someone else. But now that I think about it, I'm like, Jesus, I'm 6'2", I got a giant head, and I'm a lot bigger than the average guy. None of those mob guys are gonna, fit the role. So yeah, probably Billy Gardell or another actor who's very large and willing to fill in that role. But he's the only name I can think of right now.
Is there any specific part of your life that would be highlighted in that movie?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely my time as a wrestler. Definitely specifically the month March 2019, when I debuted in comedy, because I had a little incident about a couple of weeks or so prior, and I don't want to talk about it because it's a little dark, but yeah, definitely my time as a wrestler, my time starting out as a comic, and more specifically March 2019, that month, because I feel so far, along with graduating high school, that those were significant moments of adulthood in my life that really, made an impact for me, if you know what I mean.
I think
Yeah.
maybe you should write a book, because I feel like it is a good story to talk about, you know, your time in wrestling and then your transition to comedy.
Mhm.
You know, that, and especially with somebody who has, you know, I don't look at anything as being a disability. I look at it as being a gift. So when I say gift, that's what I mean. So when somebody has your personality, I feel like the messages come across more clear and more heartfelt,
Right.
because it's more honest and it's more direct. It's not flowery. It's not, you know, it's not sugar coated. It's just,
Mm.
this is what happened.
Mm.
You know, I think that it would be very interesting because I do see, you know, a lot of, you know, successful things for you. So I definitely, I would not give up on comedy. I know that, you know, it kind of sucks right now, but eventually it's going to get, if you definitely want to rise up those levels of being, you know, a different type of comic or just getting on more shows and doing whatever, you have to hustle. You have to go out, break bread with other comics. You have to really build up your audience. You have to do a lot of things, because to me, a very well-formed comedian is someone who knows how to market themselves, someone that knows how to get people to come to shows, someone that knows how to get stage time for themselves, because it doesn't just, people aren't just, here you go, here's stage time. No, you have to knock on the door and say, hey, look, do you have a spot for me in an upcoming show? You know, if the people that you see on all the shows, they ask. And I know this because I'm a producer. And when I put out that I'm having a show, those are the first people that ask me. So the ones that are really hustling, the ones that really want to get on a lot of shows, you know, and then there's other people that, you know, are a little shy or intimidated. And I'm like, hey, you know, give it a shot, you know.
Mm.
So definitely cool. All right. So before we get out of here, here we go with the awkward $1 million in bed with comics question, which I think you'll definitely probably have a very easy time answering.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Any comic, famous or non-famous, which one would you take to bed?
I only get one answer?
You can have two.
Okay. Nikki Glazer and Miss Pat.
Okay. Miss Pat, I
Yeah.
was not expecting that. Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to thank you for coming on In Bed with Comics tonight. Do you have any shows or anything like that that you might want to announce, or anything you got coming up in comedy?
No. I'm pretty much well, I'm putting content out on social media as much as I can. So
Where can people find you? What's your social media?
it's at Johnny Boy Comic, all one word. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and I can be found on YouTube if you just look up comedian Johnny Lambrose or just Johnny Boy Comic, you know, all one word.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got
But
that
as far as shows go, I'm waiting until COVID's under control before I start actually putting myself out there again. I'm not risking my health for, you know, anything.
I hear you. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What's up, Antonio Clark? How are you? What's up? All right. So let's get out of here. Thank you all so much for watching In Bed with Comics. I will be back on Thursday with the great, the powerful, a force to be reckoned with. Charles Goonan is coming on on Thursday. Yes, Charles Goonan. Definitely check him out. He does a lot of YouTube videos. He has an incredible singing voice.
He's got that Regis tone in his voice. He reminds me of Philman way he talks.
Yeah, he does, and he is very. I can't put a name to it. Charles Goonan is coming on In Bed with Comics. Please, everyone, watch that. It's gonna be a good show with him. I can't wait to actually like have a conversation with him, because the only time I ever really got a chance to talk to him was on Put Up, Shut Up, Stand Up, and it wasn't really much of a conversation. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. Hey Allison, what's up, girl? Hope Lita's by you. Hi Lita, if you're watching. Hi. So all right, hang on a second. I'm gonna click this off. I will be back on Thursday at 8 o'clock. I'm your host and fellow comedian, Kristen Tinsley, and thank you so much, Johnny, for coming on and hang out.
Thank you.
I shut everything down. Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching. See you Thursday.